Hi everyone, Julian here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make the hardest distorted industrial techno kicks. To go along this video, I just dropped a new template for Ableton. It's called the hardest industrial kicks ever. Link is at the top of the description. What you get is you get these 5 kick kits. I'll play them for you now. So it's these 5 sick industrial techno kicks that you can use to build your own, and you can use as templates, or you could just use these in your own tracks. You get all the individual layers as a giant Ableton file, plus you get these audio loops as well so that you can work with them just as audio. It's a really great template for really not that much, especially for the high quality stuff it is. All Ableton effects and VSTs, all that. You have everything with Ableton that you need to use this. Links at the top of the description. Thanks for the support, guys. Definitely don't miss out. While it's available, it's one of the best on the market for this style. Thanks for the support. Every little bit helps, and let's dive in. Alright guys, so what we're going to do today is I'm going to be walking you through one of these pre-made kicks to show you how it's done, and then I'm going to make one from scratch so that you can see it from scratch. So, when you're making these kicks, the first thing here is you're going to start with some layers and then kind of put them into group processing. And the first one of those is always going to be just your main kick, right? Which is right here. So we start with this kick. What's happening here is this is that, right? Where it's got a little bit of a bass to it, and we're cutting just the kick, pitching it up a little, and you notice I'm just focusing on this being just like a big fat punch, because when you hear these big distorted kicks, you know, well, first of all, without all that group processing, it all has to sit on top of a foundation. Like, yes, there's all this distortion, all these crunch layers going on, but you have to have that foundational kick for all of that stuff to sit on, because all that stuff is really just in the high end, but this is what's going to give you all that fat low end, low mid-range. And then to go with that, we also have like a standard rumble bass. So to make this one, I'm using that same kick bass, right, that had the bass attached to it. And then what we're doing is we're doing a subcut just like we did on the main kick. And then we're using this auto pan here to make it kind of bounce off the kick, almost like it's sidechained, but it's a bit more controllable. I'm then band passing it so you get just the lows, and then we're converting it to mono. So again, you always want to start with this, just a nice fat rumble kick. And then once you have those down, then you can go and start adding a few more layers. So from there, I went and I added this. So you can see this one kind of sits with both of those. Essentially, it's that same kick. What we're doing, we're low passing it a bit, but there's an envelope on the low pass filter. So it's like, that's how you're getting that boom, boom kind of thing. High passing it again. A little bit more of a low pass with the same kind of LFO. Just makes it a little bit cleaner. But then we're distorting it. So without that, with it, it's a really subtle layer, and then we just high pass it again, but it adds that nice kind of industrial feel over the main kick and over the rumble. So then we got this layer. So what this is it's meant to add punch to the main kick. You start with this. See, and then you add this layer over top. So what we're doing with this one, it's the same kick you saw. I'm just making it a little bit shorter, and we're high passing it a lot, and even cutting out a little bit of the highs into this distortion. So here's without that, with it. So that's really how we get that like punch. You're just gonna distort this kick, and then if you high pass it into the distortion, you're getting just the highs. High pass it again, and then put it over that main kick. And you get a really hard-hitting kick. And then the last layer here is just a little bit more reverb. So you can see what this is. It's the main kick. We got the same low-pass filter with an envelope on it to make it nice and deep. We're cutting a lot of low end out of it. We're actually adding a bit of reverb and then distorting it. And then at the end, what we're doing is we have this filter, this low-pass filter here with a quarter note LFO ramped down. So it's making it go like boom, boom, boom. It's a really subtle. But you hear when you put that together with all those rumble layers, it does build something. And also, you know, this is about what it's going to do when it goes into the distortion. Like, when you play these clean, okay, yeah, it might seem like a lot of little layers like this, but it's because then once you turn on all this stuff, all those layers are going to work together and create something. So, what we're starting with here is we have an EQ. So we're cutting out a bit of sub at the end to just kind of clean it up a little bit, because with these super distorted kicks, you want to make sure it's not too subby. We are cutting this notch here as well. This is something I noticed when I was studying Orgy and Raxeller's kicks. They do this a lot. That's how you get that industrial kind of thing, especially once you start distorting this later. That heavy cut in the low mids is really going to help give you that like hollow type of kick that you want. So then we've got a pedal. We got the sub up, it's on distort, but we've only got it at 31%. You can hear it's already creating a lot of that texture. But the key here is it's controlled and you're still hearing the clean signal. Then we got a little bit of saturator. Again, only at 14%, a little bit of amp. So we're basically stacking these blended distortions until it gets to that really crunchy, pushed industrial place. Then we've got an EQ, cutting a little more sub at the end of the chain, so this isn't going to be too boosting a little bit of mids, cutting a little bit of low mids again. And then the last thing here is a limiter. Now, before I show you this, you want to notice we're not clipping. And if we are, it might just be like the tiniest bit. The limiter here is not to save things from clipping, because all we'd have to do if it was clipping is just turn that down. Right, and then we're not clipping anymore. The limiter here is to push the kick even further, right? So right now it sounds like this, and then with the limiter. What's happening is obviously limiting is a form of compression, right? So by using just a little bit like this, it's not that much, but just a little bit, we're kind of like gluing all these layers together. And if you do just enough, it won't mess up the dynamics, but it's going to give you that nice animated kind of glued together type of kick. And there you go. So that's how I made that one. Now let's go from scratch. All right, so I'm going to get a kick here. Again, we're going to always just start with a kick sample. I'm going to use one of these from the Hard Techno drum library from my website. Let's use this one. Okay, so we'll put it in. Again, we're going to start with the main kick always. We're not even really going to process this. I'll just bring it in. Let's bring the velocities up. All right. Okay, and then... Cool, so we got our main kick. We can do a little subcut on this as well. All right, then we're going to make just a standard rumble. So we're going to duplicate that. We're going to get some reverb, amp, low pass, 100% wet reverb. All right, so we're getting a nice rumble. Same auto pan trick to make it sound like it's being sidechained to the kick, where we put phase on 0, quarter notes inverted, saw up. There you go, maybe a little bit of that. Okay, so now we have a normal rumble, so we can work with this. We'll go ahead and group these now. So from here, I would go and we'll take the main kick, we'll duplicate it. We're going to bring this high pass up a lot and make it a little shorter. Then we'll do a bit of distortion at the end, turn that down. And then let's copy the high pass again, because sometimes the distortion adds a little bit of low end. And now we go from this to this, okay, and then we'll turn the whole thing down a little bit. We're also going to take the rumble now and we'll just duplicate it, and we're going to make a little bit of a different layer with that. You know, this one's going to be more for like mid-range noise, so we'll add another amp. Let's do that, and then just like a low pass at the end. And honestly, a little high pass so that it doesn't get in the way of the other rumble. Alright, there we go. And then I'm going to duplicate that one more time. And see how you can use these same layers to create more layers? That's really how to make these kicks, because it's going to be so much more cohesive if they're all kind of based on these same things. So now we got a little bit more industrial noise. Now it's time to start processing the group. So we're going to take an EQ. We're going to do our subcut. We're going to also do that little low mid-range cut, maybe around like 300. Like 278 sounds good. And this is where we can start distorting the group. And the group distortion is really important. Like with any of these really crazy kicks, you're not going to get that sound just like this. This is very clean, but you need to kind of like glue them together with some effects. So we're going to start with a bit of pedal. Always turn the sub on, because you see it really helps. We're going to use distort mode. And then we're going to blend this. And the key is this is like a layer, you know? We're just going to start from 0. Alright, there we go. So we got a little bit of that in there. Let's use the fuzz, honestly. Then we'll do a bit of amp. So this is where you can really add that insane texture. But then, of course, we're going to blend it. And see, just having a little bit of that blended in does a lot. And then I honestly think like a little bit more distortion. And this is where like a saturator could come in, because you can use these creative distortion settings down here, like the wave shaper, to really get some nice textures. And then with the dry wet, you would just be able to blend that as a layer. So like even if I do something, you know, it can get crazy pretty fast. Right, so like, you know, that's obviously getting rid of a lot of low end and stuff, but then we can just blend it. And now we got that nice crunchy layer, and even maybe a little like that. And then just bring the dry wet like a little bit. And yeah, so we've stacked these 4 distortions together, and now we've kind of created a new texture out of it. Now, we're going to do another little subcut at the end just to make sure we're not messing up, you know, anything, and it's not going to get too, you know, weighing the track down. We're going to get a utility, and we're going to convert the bass to mono, because all these subcuts, I know you've probably been thinking, all these subcuts and layering kicks together does create phasing issues sometimes, so we're going to go ahead and just convert the bass to mono. Cool. And then we're going to do a limiter. And with this one, again, we're not clipping at all. This isn't to fix clipping. It's just a way to push it harder. And you really want to make sure, too, when you're doing this yourself, like, I'm carefully looking at this gain staging here, these green lines, so that it doesn't get clipping by this point. Because if you try to do this and it's clipping, you're not going to have the same results with the limiter that I'm having here. So with the limiter, we can go from this to that. It's just a little, maybe 10 to 20% boost at the end, but if you already have a really hard hitting kick, it'll give you the perfect glue to really glue your kick together. and get it sounding really nice and industrial. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything you saw in this video. This huge kick template is available at the top of the description. Definitely don't sleep. You know, this is a great template, especially for the price. It's really accessible, and you guys can get started today with some really high quality kicks. Make your own industrial tracks, take them apart, learn from them, just build your own tracks on these. It really helps support me as well. I really don't make a whole lot off of YouTube, but if you guys enjoy these videos, definitely grab this sample pack. It helps keep me going so I can keep bringing you guys new tips like this every single day. Thanks for the support, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow with another video.